Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be sharing with you 8 different places that nobody speaks about but just might be the perfect place for you to live. Don't go anywhere, give me a thumbs up, let's get right into it. The first place that I'm going to mention is Prampram. So Prampram is within the greater Accra region. It's about a 45 minutes drive from TEMA. Depending on traffic, it could be less. And from Accra, it's probably about an hour and 15 minutes. The good thing about Prampram is getting access to the urban parts of Accra is really easy, but you have access to some of the best beaches that you would find within the greater Accra region in Ghana. It's very coastal, quite serene. Lots of people have their holiday homes out that way, and people live there generally as well. So they have very small communities where the locals live, and then there's newer parts that are a bit more modern as well. There's a few gated communities out that way, so homes that have security 24/7, that have community areas where there's a pool and there's like play areas and, you know, common areas where people can do recreational activities and stuff like that. Prampram has developed quite fast within a short period of time. They also have very decent roads. Most of the roads in Prampram are done. It's only if you go to like the really new areas where they're now building, that's where you would find that the roads may not be the best. The other good thing about Prampram is it's quite affordable, even though you're not too far away from like TEMA and Accra and stuff like that. It's a little more reasonable in comparison to a lot of other parts within the greater Accra region. The other good thing about Prampram is because they still have lots of local communities out that way, culture is still a big thing. They still have a variety of festivals that they celebrate out that way on an annual basis. So that's also a plus. You can really find a rental out there anywhere from, let's say, about $150, $200 per month upwards. And then if you want to buy something, you can easily find like a 2-bedroom for about maybe $60,000 US. So it's quite reasonable in comparison to many other places. And they have local markets, there's a university out that way, there's a high school out that way, they have a couple of clinics and a couple of healthcare centers as well. So you have access to all those infrastructures. The only con I would say is they're still working on the road that leads from TEMA through to Prampram. So that's the same road that if you come from Accra, you used to get to Prampram as well. And because they're still working on that, traffic can be pretty bad during peak hours. But once that road is completed, that's going to alleviate all that. And once that's alleviated as well, then the prices will probably start to go up as well. So that's something to bear in mind. The other good thing is it's a good place to consider investing because of the road expansion that's happening out that way. If you're somebody that's interested in buying a home and using it for Airbnb purposes, then that might be a place to consider. Or even if you just want to buy a rented out, or if you want to use it as a holiday home, whatever it is, the value is definitely going to go up once the access becomes easy. The other place that I will speak about is Ho. So Ho is within the Volta region of Ghana. It is the capital town within the Volta region. Ho is probably about 3 hours away from Accra. Again, very beautifully developed city. It's not overly busy if you compare it to Accra and stuff like that, but at the same time, you can find most things out there. Good markets, lots of senior high schools, very good ones out that way. So with the high schools that are out that way, there's like Ola Girls, Mauli Secondary School. They're all quite well known out this way in Ghana because they're quite good schools. So if you have kids around that age, then that's something that you might find handy. There's like 2 universities out that way as well. And they also have like a teaching hospital. They have a couple of clinics. So those type of infrastructures you would find there without having to come all the way out this way. They also have very decent roads out that way. Another great thing about the Volta region in general is they have some of the best beaches out that way. So if you're in Ho, then obviously you have better access to that. They have a variety of festivals that they celebrate on the regular as well. So if you're interested in immersing yourself culturally, then you can participate without having to travel too far away. Ho is definitely beautiful. They have a lot of greenery. I've been there. I went to the Volta region a couple of years ago. I'll leave a link in the description box below for people that want to have a bit of an idea of what that area looks like. And yeah, that'll give you some perception, but that's definitely a good place to consider. The other thing is the cost of living is significantly lower than if you were in Accra. So in a place like Ho, you can definitely get a decent 2-bed for about $100 per month onwards. You may even be able to find something cheaper, but if you want something that looks a little nicer, then you have to budget at least $100 per month. The other good thing with a place like Ho is there's that sense of community because it's a smaller place, like it's not as big and as busy as Accra, so people tend to know each other a bit more as well. So it's probably going to be easier for you to meet people and form a decent group of friends and that kind of thing. So that's also something that's definitely a plus. The only disadvantage I would say is, I mean, it's still a small town, so it's on the outskirts, so there might be certain things that you might still need to source from Accra, but generally speaking, most things that you will require on a daily basis, you would easily find out that way. The other place that I'll recommend is an area called Akropong. So Akropong is only about 15 minutes drive from Ibri, 15-20, something like that. Very, very beautiful place. It's obviously in an elevated part of Ghana, so you get much cooler weather, lots of greenery out that way. They actually have some very beautiful residential homes out that way as well. Cost of living, again, significantly lower. It's probably gone a bit higher now that Ibri is getting expensive, but it's still cheaper than you would get in Ibri. Aside that, the cost of living is still quite low. Lots of the homes out there are like family homes where people have grown up and, you know, they still have people that have inherited the home still living out that way. But in saying that, they have new developments and things like that out that way. So a very small town feel, lots of farms around as well. So you get access to a lot of fresh produce and that kind of thing. And the proximity to Accra is not terrible either because, again, it's only 15 minutes away from Ibri. So to get to Accra, it's probably like an hour and a half, something like that, 2 hours at the most, which is also a plus if you need to access Accra on a regular basis. The other thing is, if you're somebody that's interested in culture and stuff like that, Akropong is also a good option because they still celebrate festivals like the Ojira Festival. That's done annually as well. It's quite popular. Lots of people go and stuff like that. So if you're someone that wants to immerse yourself in that type of thing, then Akropong might be a good place to consider. Rental out that way, again, if you go about $100 per month, you should be able to find something decent. And you guys always have to remember that if I say $100 a month, that doesn't mean they're only going to charge you for a month. You have to come up with a year upfront for most people, or 2 years. That's just how it works out this way. Another good thing about Akropong is they have a variety of high schools out that way that are quite well known. Borteyman Secondary School. There's a Presbyterian College out that way as well that's well known. So if you're someone with kids around that age, then you have access to that as well. The only cons I would say for Akropong is, again, it's a smaller town, so there's certain things that you probably still need to come out to Accra to find, but generally speaking, the things that you require on a regular basis, you should be able to find out that way. And also, even though they have clinics and that type of thing out that way, it's all very basic. Like, you won't really find like a high-end healthcare place out that way. Same for a place like Ho and stuff like that. It's all like, you know, the basic hospital with the essentials. But if you want somewhere that's considered high-end, probably won't find it out that way. Most of those ones are still within the main parts of Accra. The other thing that I must say of Akropong and Ho and Prampram is like the relaxed pace of life out that way as well. The traffic is not as crazy. It's a little more laid back in comparison to if you went into the busier cities. I mean, generally speaking, most smaller towns have that feel. So if you're someone that's retiring especially, I would particularly consider these 3 places that I've mentioned so far. The other place that I would mention that I feel like is already quite popular to a lot of people who are in the diaspora and stuff like that is Cape Coast. So Cape Coast is within the central region of Ghana. It's probably about 4.5 hours to 5 hours drive away from Accra. Cape Coast is lovely. They have some of the most beautiful beaches you will find out this way in Ghana. Again, lots of tourist sites, lots of them. So the Cape Coast Castle, Elmina Castle, all those ones are sort of within a good range within Cape Coast. There's so many places to explore if you want to explore history and stuff like that. The Kakum National Park, all those things, they're all located out that way. So it's a very popular tourist destination, but people tend to live out that way as well. Cost of living out there is getting higher now that you know, a lot of diasporans are moving out that way, but it's still significantly lower than you will find out in Accra and stuff like that. Again, the pace of life out there is a little quieter unless there's an event like festival or something like that. It's a good place to immerse yourself in culture as well, because they do have the Fetu Afashe, which is done every year. So that's also a good way to learn about Ghana and some of the cultures that we have. And then the other thing is, because you have access to the sea, then there's no shortage of fresh fish. They have a massive fish market where you can consistently get fresh fish. I did explore Cape Coast at a point in time, so I'll leave that link in the description box below as well for people that may be curious about what Cape Coast looks like. So you can find rentals out that way, anywhere from maybe like $150 per month upwards, which is also obviously a plus. So if you're not someone who is required to be in Accra on a regular basis, then Cape Coast might be a good place to consider. It also has almost a big percentage of the very popular, well-known, really good senior high schools. So like Infantipim, Wesley Girls High School, St. Augustine's, Adisadel College, all those ones, they're all out that way. So that's also handy for, especially if you have kids who are around that age and you know you want them to be not too far from you when they go to senior high school. The other thing that's worth mentioning about Cape Coast, which can be a con, I guess, is because you're still in a small town, still access to certain things you may not be able to find out that way. They have clinics and that type of thing, but then they're all quite basic. So if you want something that's high end, again, you probably still have to make your way out this way. But for your daily, regular living stuff, you can definitely find it all out in Cape Coast. The other place that I'm going to speak to you guys about is Spintex. So Spintex is within the Greater Accra region. Spintex is a very, very good spot. There's no shortage of malls, shopping centers. I've taken you guys there a couple of times, especially with my shopping videos where I've taken you guys to like bathroom shopping and I've taken you guys furniture shopping and all that. All those shops are in Spintex. So Spintex has very, very good proximity to almost everything. And from there to the airport is probably like 20-25 minutes drive. Very, very good spot when it comes to location. And in terms of accessing healthcare and that type of thing, you're not far from any good place, really. It's quite central. And the other thing is I feel like Spintex is not as expensive as a lot of the other prime parts of Accra, Ghana. I feel like it can be prime because of where it's located, but then it's not as expensive. If you've got about maybe $350 per month, $300 per month, you can definitely find a reasonable place to live within Spintex. The only con I would say with Spintex is a lot of the inner roads are not done. So most of the inner roads are still dirt roads. And then the other thing is the traffic out there can be pretty bad depending on the time of the day. It's gotten a bit better because now they've done like another road adjacent to the main Spintex road. So now people have the option to use that or the main Spintex road. So that has alleviated the traffic a little bit, but it can still be better. I still like Spintex because I feel like it's reasonable and you're still within good proximity to everything. The other place that I recommend is Chado. So Chado is also within the Greater Accra region. Chado is such a good spot, guys. It's literally across from Labadi Beach. So you can walk to Labadi Beach depending on what part of Chado you live in. It's only like 15 minutes from the airport. If you're trying to access places like Laboni, Cantonments, all those places are like within 10 minutes away, not far at all. And obviously, if you want to go to Labadi Beach, then it's literally across the road. So there's a lot of Airbnbs and that type of thing out that way because it's such a good spot and people tend to book it all the time. Again, proximity to high-end hospitals, to high-end clinics, to decent restaurants, bars, clubs, you name it. It's all within like 15 minutes proximity. Very, very good spot. And quite residential. They have beautiful modern residential homes out that way. The only con is it's gotten quite expensive. If you want a place to rent out that way, I would say you probably pay a minimum of like maybe $500 per month, something like that, depending on what part of Chado you want to stay in. And the other thing is, you know, with Ghana in general, in an attempt to sell something, let's say this house is just on the outskirts of Chado, they might tell you it's Chado when it's not really Chado, just because it's very close to Chado. You know what I mean? So then somebody can offer you a place and say, oh, this place is only $200 per night. Sorry, not 200. That's a bit low. Let's say like $300 per month. But then you go and it's not really Chado. You know what I mean? So that's something to bear in mind. Some of the cons of Chado is some of the inner roads are not done, and there's a lot of new developments that are coming up like at a really fast pace. So like I feel like some of the planning is not the best as well. So you need to be really mindful when you're choosing what part of Chado to live in, just to ensure that access, the roads and those type of things is not so bad, because there's some really good parts of Chado and there's some parts that are within Chado but not the best. So the other place that I'll speak to you guys about is Borteyman. I really like Borteyman. So Borteyman is within the municipal of Katamanso. So it's kind of in TEMA, but it's sort of in Accra. It's like right on the side of the motorway. It's a new area that has just come up and it's developing so fast. Like so many new gated communities are coming out that way, and it's just getting more and more expensive. It's one of those places that are like, it's like 20 minutes away from the airport, but you can still find land there at the moment because it's a newer area. It's very beautiful. It's really well done. A lot of the roads have already been completed as well, so it makes access very easy. It's just lovely. It's just a good spot to consider, especially if you want to be in prime Accra but you cannot afford to buy in like Laboni and those places. And even those places, there's barely any land available. But in a place like Borteyman, you can definitely find land, but then it's still in a good spot. It's only like 20 minutes away from the airport, and access to some of these prime areas is still quite easy. Access to the motorway is also quite easy. Land around Borteyman, you can find something anywhere from like 470,000 Ghana cedis upwards. You should be able to find the plots. Most of the lands there are registered. There might be some that might be unregistered, but I will not necessarily touch those ones. In terms of rental as well, you should be able to find something there anywhere from maybe $300 per month upwards. You should be able to find something decent out that way. The only con I would say is your options are limited because it's a new area. It's still coming up. So if you're looking for a rental out that way, it might take forever because there's not too many developments yet. But it's well lived. Like there's lots of people there and stuff like that. But it's just empty homes is hard to find because, you know, people are now building out that way. So yeah, I like Borteyman. It's a cool place. If you want to access hospitals and those type of things, you're literally in the center of Accra. So getting to places is super easy. Given how quickly it's developing, if you bought anything out that way, it's going to appreciate very quickly. The final place that I'm going to speak to you guys about is Sakumono. Sakumono is probably like 40 minutes away from Accra, and into TEMA is probably like 15 minutes. They have the village area and then they have the parts that's quite residential. So the residential part of Sakumono is a good spot. Very lovely homes. It has gotten quite expensive over time though. The other great thing that I really appreciate about Sakumono is it's very walkable, you know. It's really well structured, really well planned, so it's very easy to just go for a walk randomly. There's a lot of parts in Ghana that have nice homes and stuff like that, but you can't really walk around because of how busy the roads get and stuff like that. Sakumono, I feel like it's quiet enough for you to be able to walk around even though you're in a very central part of Ghana. The other thing is getting access to Spintex Road, getting access to the airport, to TEMA, to main part of Accra, super easy. So there's no shortage of infrastructure within Sakumono itself and also just on the outsides of Sakumono, and you can find some nice homes out this way as well. Out in Sakumono as well, I'll say rental is probably at least $300 per month minimum, and then you can find like a 2-bedroom apartment or something like that to buy for about $110,000 upwards as well. Out that way, they also have gated communities and that type of thing. So if that's a preference that you have, then you can definitely find it over there as well. The other great thing is Sakumono is probably like 10 minutes away from Junction Mall, which is a decent mall that has a lot of the things that you might need on the regular. And that's a little bit smaller in comparison to, say, Accra Mall. But from Sakumono to Accra Mall is probably about 25 minutes as well. So you're still within a good spot when it comes to access to shopping malls and stuff like that. The other great thing about Sakumono is even within it as well, they have some good nightlife places, like, you know, Fridays. There's a couple of bars and things like that that you can access without necessarily having to travel outside if you don't want to. So if you're someone that's into that, Sakumono is still worth considering. that was 8 different places that people don't speak about often, but might be worth considering if you want to move out this way, buy out this way, or live out this way. Every area that I mentioned is safe for the most part. Infrastructure is decent, and proximity to a lot of the things that you might need access to is great as well. Also, for the most part, it's reasonably priced in comparison to a lot of other parts of Accra that offer the same sort of advantages. I hope you guys have found this video useful. If you have, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I guess I'll see you in my next one. Don't forget to follow your bliss, so na life is short. Follow your bliss, na nipa ye den. Follow your bliss, na di ebesidia ye. Follow your bliss, na den ne mada. Take care, guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye.